There's an oath that every new American citizen must take, hand raised, eyes forward, and buried in those words is a promise so sacred, so absolute, that when you understand what's happening in Minnesota right now, your blood will run cold. Before I tell you what that promise says and how it was shattered by hundreds of people while a congresswoman looked the other way, I need you to make a choice. Hit that subscribe button right now. Become a member of this community. Because what I'm about to reveal, they've been working very hard to keep quiet. Let me read you the oath, the actual words. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. Absolutely, entirely. Renounce, those aren't soft words, those aren't suggestions. You're severing the tie. You're saying that whatever you were before, you're American now. Your loyalty is here. Your duty is here. The Constitution is your guide. The law is your master. But here's what they won't tell you on the evening news. That oath doesn't mean anything anymore. Not to the people gaming the system, not to the politicians protecting the fraud, and certainly not to the hundreds of Somali immigrants in Minnesota who just pulled off one of the largest fraud schemes in American history. Listen carefully to what happened. In Minnesota, under the watch of Governor Tim Walz, there was a program. Federal money, your tax dollars, designated to feed hungry children, a noble cause. Nobody argues with feeding kids. But something went wrong. Something went very, very wrong. Hundreds of people, many of them recent Somali immigrants, created a network, a sophisticated web of fake names, fake addresses, fake children who didn't exist, fake meals that were never served. They submitted invoices, they billed the government, and the money flowed. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Some estimates say it could be over $1 billion. Where did that money go? Some went to mansions, luxury cars, real estate. But here's the part that should absolutely terrify you. Investigative journalists trace significant portions of that money being sent back overseas, not to help grandma, not for humanitarian aid, to political groups, groups that have documented ties to organizations the United States government has identified as terrorist-related. Stop and think about that for just a moment. American taxpayer money, stolen through brazen fraud, funneled to groups that have one goal, the destruction of the West. And who represents Minnesota in Congress? Ilhan Omar, a Somali immigrant herself, a sitting United States Congresswoman who took that same oath. And when this scandal breaks, when the fraud is exposed, when the evidence is undeniable, what does she do? Does she express outrage? Does she demand accountability? Does she stand with the American taxpayers who were robbed? No. She calls the investigation racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic. It took about 60 seconds. I watched it happen. I thought to myself, let's see how fast she plays the card. 60 seconds. The evidence doesn't matter. The stolen money doesn't matter. The potential terror financing doesn't matter. What matters is the narrative. Protect the tribe, deflect, attack, never apologize. And here's what nobody in the media will ask. What about the oath? Every single person involved in this fraud who was a U.S. citizen, they took an oath. They swore to support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. They swore to bear true faith and allegiance. They swore they would take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Without mental reservation. That phrase is not accidental. It means you're not crossing your fingers behind your back. It means you're not thinking, I'll say the words, but I don't really mean them. It means this is real. This is binding. This is forever. But what happens when the oath is a performance from day one? What happens when people come to America not to become American, but to use America as a resource to be extracted, a system to be gained, a wealth transfer mechanism back to the homeland? I want you to understand something. This isn't about immigration. I'm the grandson of immigrants. My family came through Ellis Island. They didn't speak English. They were poor. They worked brutal jobs, but they wanted to be American. They wanted their children to be American. They learned the language. They studied the history. They saluted the flag without irony. That's the melting pot. That's the American tradition. You come from anywhere. You can look like anything, you can have any background, but you assimilate, you join, you become part of something larger than your tribe. What we're seeing now is the opposite. It's separatism with American benefits. It's maintaining your foreign identity, your foreign loyalty, your foreign allegiance, while collecting American welfare, using American infrastructure, and exploiting American generosity. And here's the comparison nobody wants to make. This doesn't happen in Europe the same way because Europe never had the melting pot tradition. France was French, Germany was German. They were ethnically homogeneous for centuries. When they started bringing in immigrants from North Africa and the Middle East in the 1960s and 70s, they had no mechanism to assimilate them. No tradition of making a Moroccan into a Frenchman. No way to turn a Turk into a German. America was different. We were always diverse, but we had a system, a pressure cooker of assimilation, English language, civic education, the oath of citizenship that actually meant something, the expectation that you would become American, not just live in America. That system is broken now. It's been deliberately dismantled by the diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology that says your ethnic identity, your tribal identity, is the most important thing about you. That assimilation is oppression. That asking someone to learn English is racist. That the melting pot itself is a form of cultural genocide. So now we have entire communities in Minnesota, in Michigan, in other states where people live for decades and never learn English, never integrate, never think of themselves as American. They live in parallel societies with their own rules, their own loyalties, their own systems that have nothing to do with the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. And when they commit fraud on a massive scale, when they steal hundreds of millions of dollars and send it overseas to questionable groups, the response from our leaders is not outrage, it's excuse-making, it's deflection, it's calling anyone who points out the fraud a bigot. Let me tell you what this is really about. It's about whether the oath means anything. If you can take that oath, swear before God and country that you renounce all foreign allegiance, and then immediately turn around and send American money to foreign political movements, what was the oath? It was a lie. It was a performance. It was words without meaning. And if the oath of citizenship is meaningless, then what? If citizens can ignore their sworn obligations, what about people here on visas? What about people here on green cards? What about people who cross the border illegally and are now claiming asylum? If the highest form of American belonging, citizenship itself, carries no obligations and demands no loyalty, then we're not a country anymore. We're just a place, a geographic location where people come to extract resources and send the wealth elsewhere. I've lived long enough to watch this transformation happen. When I was young, there was an expectation. When you came to America, you became American. It wasn't negotiable, it wasn't optional, it was the deal. And most people, the vast majority of immigrants, took that deal with pride. They wanted to be American. They wanted to belong. But something has changed in the last 20 or 30 years. There's a growing number of people who want American prosperity without American identity. They want the benefits without the obligations. They want to wave the flag of their homeland while cashing checks from the United States Treasury. And our elites, our politicians, our media class, they encourage this. They celebrate it. They call it diversity. They call it multiculturalism. They attack anyone who says, wait a minute, shouldn't there be some expectations here? Shouldn't citizenship mean something? The Minnesota fraud is not an isolated incident. It's a symptom. It's what happens when you abandon assimilation, when you stop enforcing the oath, when you allow tribal loyalty to supersede national loyalty, when you're more afraid of being called racist than of being robbed blind. And the most tragic part, the people this hurts the most are the immigrants who did it right. The ones who came here legally, learned English, worked hard, paid taxes, raised their kids to be American. Those people look at the Minnesota fraud and they're disgusted because they know it makes everyone suspicious. It makes people look at all immigrants with doubt. I talk to these people all the time, Mexican Americans whose families have been here for 2 or 3 generations. They're in line at the grocery store behind someone who doesn't speak a word of English, using 4 different EBT cards, and they're thinking, I work 60 hours a week and I can barely afford groceries, and this person is gaming the system. They see it, they know it, and they resent it just as much as anyone else. The solution is not complicated. It's the same solution we use for 200 years. You come to America, you take the oath, and we hold you to it. We expect assimilation. We expect English. We expect civic participation. We expect loyalty. And if you violate that oath, if you commit fraud, if you send money to terror-linked groups, you lose your citizenship. You get deported. You don't get to stay here and collect benefits while your congresswoman calls the investigation racist. That's not cruelty. That's not xenophobia. That's just basic respect for the law and for the oath that makes someone American. The question is whether we still have the will to enforce it, whether we still believe that American citizenship is something special, something sacred, something worth protecting, or whether we've decided that it's just a piece of paper, a transaction, a meaningless formality. What happened in Minnesota gives us the answer, and it should scare every single one of us who loves this country. Now, I need you to do something. If you believe the oath should mean something, if you believe citizenship carries obligations, hit that like button, leave a comment, and tell me what you think. And subscribe to this channel. Become a member, because we need to build a community of people who still believe in the American idea. People who won't stay silent while that idea is dismantled piece by piece. Thank you for watching. And remember, the oath is only as strong as our will to enforce it.